Her triumphs, I took a group of women that didn't believe in themselves, and I just believed in them. Her trials,
I never wanted to go to practice. I was losing a ton of weight.
Her story,
I just put my faith in God and just trusted the system.
Her why.
I want people to see what I did and say, oh, that's so awesome. I'm going to be better than that. That would be how I hope that this journey ends.
This is Her Why, where we tell the stories from BYU women's sports. Here is your host, Lauren McLean.
We're so glad you've joined us for Her Why, where we celebrate the women who make BYU sports great. Joining us now is former BYU libero and current player for the League One Volleyball's Salt Lake team, the fan favorite, Mary Lake. Thanks so much for being here with me, Mary.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
You were the fan favorite, though.
Oh.
Like, you truly were. People, I feel like part of the reason they came to volleyball matches was to see you. You were so much fun to watch.
Oh, you're nice.
So I'm glad you're playing again. It's been 5 years since you played at BYU. Now you're back into volleyball. How did the opportunity with League One Volleyball come about?
So I was coaching club at this club in North Salt Lake where I live, where the league will be practicing. And so they're really involved with the league. And one of the old men's volleyball players was messaging me like, you should ask them if they need another libero. Like, you should do it. I live 5 minutes away from the training facility. And I was back in the volleyball world coaching after having been a CPA and doing taxes. And I kind of just got this itch of like, oh, I really want to play again. And I asked them, kind of expecting them to say no. I've been out of it for 5 years. And they were like, we would love that. I probably am an easy pick for them. I'm like, maybe a cheaper pick, but and maybe bring some BYU fans. But I was just so excited and so grateful. And it really has felt like it's just been handed to me. I'm working hard, I'm practicing, but the opportunity has just like unfolded itself in front of me. So, yeah.
I love that. So you're married and you have a little 1-year-old boy, Tommy. Like you mentioned, you're a tax associate at a consulting firm in Salt Lake. Now you're going to become a pro volleyball player. So what was the decision process like for you? Because that couldn't have been easy, or was it?
Yeah, so after I had my son, I decided to take a break from accounting. I wanted to be with him, and I was coaching volleyball, and I kind of felt like this is what I wanted to keep doing. Like, volleyball is such a big part of my life, and it honestly wasn't that hard. It was hard because I know how hard the grind is for a professional athlete. Even just being a college athlete, it's hard, and there's a lot mentally, there's a lot physically. So I was kind of gearing up for that aspect, but like the choice and the desire was just there, and it felt like it was meant to be. So.
And your husband was 100% on board, like, let's do this.
He is so excited. He's more excited than I am. I have to remind him, like, honey, I need to take a break. I'm the one playing. Like, give me some time at home. He's so excited. He's my agent, and which means he's reviews my documents, and he is the one that they're in contact with a lot because I kind of don't want to think about it.
Yeah.
He's so excited. He's so supportive and great. He does a lot helping me with Tommy when I'm working out, when I'm playing volleyball, and just being like an emotional support. He's the best.
He's like, why are you at home? You should be at the facility.
No, yeah.
What are you doing here?
Go.
So you mentioned that you live 5 minutes away from that facility. Would you have considered still playing if it wasn't so close to home?
I actually don't know. I know that the time commitment would be bigger. It will be bigger than a 20-minute drive, right?
Yeah.
But it just felt like it was kind of the activation, the pinpoint that felt like, okay, I think I can do this. Like, I only have a 5-minute drive. I won't be spending hours away from my son just driving. Like, I'll be doing something with my time that's very purposeful when I'm away from him. I don't know. I don't want to say no, I wouldn't have, because that sounds bad. But I think it kind of got me out of my shell. Like,
right.
Oh wow, this seems perfect. This opportunity. So yeah,
the perfect stepping stone.
Yes, exactly.
What was some of the responses from family, friends, former teammates when they found out you were getting back into the volleyball world?
Oh, I don't know. I expected my parents to be way more excited. My dad is like my biggest fan. He went to everything. He's like volleyball dad, just supportive, not pushy, not in the business of it. my parents, I could talk for hours about how they were the best sports parents, but I expected him to be like, Dad, I'm coming out of retirement. You should be so, they were both so excited. I think they more so really understand like what it takes.
Yeah.
They kind of went into support mode more than excited mode, which I really appreciate. And they were awesome. My former teammates, just so great. They're so excited for me. I can just think of a few: Emily Lewis, Kiani Tuileta Moyai, and McKenna Miller, who are like my support system, and they've just been so awesome.
What about Heather Olstead? What did she say when she found out?
Yeah, she was excited. I mean, it's been so long. I think everyone, she really was like, you can do it. It's going to be hard work, but you're going to be fine. And I've talked to her a lot about, this last spring was in the gym at the Smithfield House. They let me practice with the players, which was so fun. So fun getting to know the team. I now watch games and I'm like, oh, I know these girls. I played with them for a couple weeks and I love them all. And she's just the best. I love Heather.
You've probably played a little bit of volleyball, obviously, since you got married, but it's nothing like when you played for BYU or for Team USA. What's been the process like of getting back into shape, the shape you need to be playing pro?
Yeah, so I was trying to ramp up. I mean, I was postpartum kind of when I decided to do it. And I was like, I feel like my body's obviously not the same. It hasn't been as hard as I thought. Like skill-wise, there's some things that I want to fine-tune, but it's like you get 90% there, and then that 10% is really hard, and that'll be the fine-tuning. In terms of shape, I think it's been easier because I have a little more time. Like I'm not in between classes and like doing homework late at night and then waking up early in the morning for weights. It's been a little easier than I thought. I was really worried about that. I've been training with Ronnie Jones-Perry, who she's going to be on the team too, and a player who used to play at the U, who's now a pro player, Danny Drews, who's so awesome. And I just play every day, try to get as many reps as I can, try to make them quality. So
and it came back. It all came back to you.
Yeah.
I love it. Your first match is in January in Atlanta, but you mentioned that you're going to be playing in a league in Arizona before then. Right?
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about that.
It's called Athletes Unlimited Pro. So they have a softball team, a women's volleyball team, and I think another league. But how it works is they get a whole bunch of girls, and every week team captains draft their own team. And so the people who have the most point scoring are the team leaders, and then they create the team around it. So kind of a weird, a different model, you know. I'm a little anxious to see how I play in it. I think Jeff and I were talking because there's only 4 liberos, right? And there's 4 teams. So once the 3 liberos get picked, the last libero is always last to be drafted because you know it's going to be that. Right. So he's like, just anticipate if you're last to be drafted. Don't let it completely crush your confidence. I'm like, okay, that's true. I might be last every week, but we'll see.
The last kid being picked on the playground at recess.
Yeah, it's going to be okay. Whatever happens.
Well, I think you're going to be all right. So now that you're a professional volleyball player, what does your schedule look like on a daily basis?
It's kind of morphed. I used to go to like a gym to work out every morning at 8 a.m. And now I've transitioned to lifting mostly like 3 times a week with a trainer. So I wake up, I do my baby stuff. I'm a mom. And then I drop him off at our nanny's house and he takes a nap and kind of plays. She actually is one of my best friends and she has a little boy the same age. So it's perfect. And he takes a nap. I drive over to the gym. I play for hopefully 2 hours, maybe a little less. I drive back, pick the baby up, and then I figure out other childcare arrangements. And then I work out at the U right now with a trainer up there, and he's really awesome. And then I come home. I try to cook my meals in between then, meal prep on the weekend so that I have some snacks, and then try to get to bed early. The hardest part, honestly, is like sleep as a mom is just so all over the place. And so like last night, my kid was sad and probably didn't eat enough during the day and I was awake. And I'm like, I went up with him and then I'm like, okay, I need to sleep. Ask dad to go get up with him. And that's honestly the hardest part is like sleep recovery. And that'll be a big part when I start playing in the league will be I need to prioritize my sleep and recovering every day.
Right.
So
Very
anyway,
difficult with a child.
yeah.
though.
And especially early on when like kids get better at sleeping as they get
Yes.
older. And I think it'll be probably fine once. But early on when I started training, he was still like
He's little.
6 months to a year. And so it was just, we were just surviving.
But you figured it out.
Yeah.
You figured it out.
Yeah, it's been awesome.
So you haven't started actually practicing with your team yet.
Yeah,
with League
that
One.
starts in November. So I've been practicing with a lot of other pro players in Utah who just want to come get reps. They come up,
Okay.
which has been actually really good. Like, I think it's done what it's needed to
Yeah.
for me. But I am really grateful for this opportunity. This league that I'm going to in Arizona, I actually reached out to them a couple months ago and asked if they needed a libero, and they said, no, we're all full. And I was like, okay, let me know if there's an injury. And Jeff was like, there might be an injury. And I was like, honey, my position doesn't get injured. Like, that's not going to happen. Or it's probably unlikely someone's going to drop out. And a couple weeks ago, I was kind of having a little bit of a mental breakdown of like, I need to train better. Like, I need to get different kinds of reps. Like, these controlled it's not the same as playing a game. And Jeff was like, we'll figure it out somehow. And I was like, how are we going to figure it out? Like, there's nothing that we can do to, like, I don't think there's anything I can do to make this better. The next day, I get a text message from the league like, hey, someone can't do it. Like, would you want to come? And it just felt like the biggest answer to prayer and the biggest blessing. Jeff was like, man, he answers your prayers so fast. He was like, I should just funnel everything through you. No, I'm just kidding. But it's really, I'm so excited for it.
That's awesome. What an incredible opportunity. What's it like playing alongside some of your former teammates on a professional team now?
Oh, it's so fun. It's so fun realizing, like, it's cool seeing how much they've grown. Like, Ronnie is just a beast, and she has gotten so much better, and her mental game is just next level. Like, it's cool to see her progression, and it inspires me and makes me want to get better. And just to be on the same court as her again.
Yeah.
She's so great. Have so much respect for her and the kind of player that she is. Like, she is like a type A volleyball player. She's so disciplined, so hardworking, so competitive. And I kind of am a more relationships, a little fluid. Like, I compete and I want to win more than anything, but like, it's good to have different personalities in practice. So
you got to have that balance.
Yeah.
Does it feel like old times, or has the dynamic changed? Because I mean, you're a mom. It's been several years removed.
I know. A lot of my volleyball teams, I've felt like the little girl, like, especially with Team USA. I was just kind of, how old was I when I was on Team USA? I was like 20 or something like that. And they were all so much older than me and so much more developed skill-wise and maturity. And so I've always just felt like, and even at BYU, I'm young for my grade. And so, I don't know, it's weird feeling like I have this mom experience that they don't have, even though they've had so many amazing experiences I haven't had. But I'm like, have this unique one of being a mom.
Right.
So it's kind of interesting talking to them about that. And I really have to hold my tongue. Like, I can't talk to them about my kid all day long. Because when you're a mom, that's all you want to do. You're like, he just did this really cute thing. Or, but I'm like, okay, I need to relate a little bit more. I can talk to them and bring him and show him, but I can't just like only be in mom mode.
Because it's all encompassing when you're a mom.
Oh,
you know, I mean, that's
totally.
It's
Especially
a huge
a
part of who
first-time
you
mom.
are.
I'm like,
yes.
This must be. I have a sister who has a son the same age as Tommy, and I go to her and I'm like, Tommy's doing this thing, and she's like, oh, that's so cute. And then I see her kid like do the exact same thing. I'm like, Sarah, why didn't you tell me?
Doing, like, a round
he's
off
not
backhand
special. Like, he's just a product of his age. Anyway,
I love it. It's nothing like being a first-time mom.
I know.
You recently had a volleyball camp with Danny Drews. You mentioned a former Ute who's now your teammate. How did that camp come about?
We just decided that we wanted to coach a camp together. We'd been on the opposite sides for so long. And it was great. Danny's so awesome. She is like this big ball of energy, and she's so good with the little kids. It's great.
Is there still kind of that? I mean, of course, there's no tension anymore. But do you guys ever joke around about the BYU?
Oh
Utah
yeah,
thing?
like talk about it, or it's funny just hearing everyone's different experiences, and they're all kind of similar. Like, college athletics.
Yeah.
You realize that they're all kind of similar, but it's fun kind of reminiscing on games where we beat her, she beat us.
Yeah,
So
that's awesome.
she's great.
What's it like being able to help train and develop the younger generation of these female volleyball players?
From a very young age, when I was at BYU, like some of my favorite parts are staying after games and talking to especially teenagers. Like, they're kind of trying to figure themselves out. They seem a little unsure about life, and being able to give that one-on-one time was always so special to me, especially when they didn't expect it, like connecting with them. And coaching is I that same feeling. And I have to remember, like, sometimes coaching is hard. Like, you're not in control of the outcome. You're really just trying to develop their skills and working with different personalities. And but at the end of the day, I just will look back on my time coaching at club just feeling like I loved those girls so much, and I loved getting to know them. And it's just special. Even without volleyball, just really the mentoring and just getting to know them is so great.
The LOVB is starting its season a few weeks before the Professional Volleyball Federation begins their second season. Can the United States handle 2 professional women's volleyball leagues?
Yes. Totally. No, really. It's really an up and coming sport. I think last year some of the crowd records that were set were all women's volleyball.
So
in
cool.
the United, in collegiate volleyball. And I think people are opening their eyes that it's such a fun sport, like watching the Olympics, that those Team USA games that were so tight were so incredibly fun to watch. And I had people come up to me like, I had never watched volleyball, and I find myself loving the volleyball games, men's and women's. And I think the interesting thing is it's so popular not here. Like it is when I was with Team USA and we would go play in Italy, we would play in Bulgaria, like it was jam-packed. I mean, they were the national teams playing each other, but it's like that for all the leagues out there. It's just people love the sport. And I think once people realize that it's such a beautiful sport to watch, like there's so much skill and the rallies are fun, there's a lot of energy, I think it'll just take off.
You mentioned professional volleyball. It's up and coming in the U.S. How do you feel like the growth of the sport and the opportunities that it brings is creating for athletes like yourself and for the upcoming generation?
Oh, there's going to be so many opportunities. I kind of feel a little sad that I was my age. I'm like, if I had been 2 or 3 years younger, like it would have been perfect. I would have, because as a libero, the path to playing overseas is really hard. So in other countries, they have limits on how many foreigners you can have on a team. And usually teams aren't going to want to have a foreign libero because it'll take that spot. They'll get a big hitter, they'll get a middle, a right side. And so being a libero, and Team USA has always had trouble with that. Like there's not a lot of liberos to pick from because, I mean, their libero right now is fabulous. But like it's a hard getting contracts. But now with the leagues coming here, it's like there's so many paths for especially liberos to keep playing after college, which has been kind of the trouble in the United States. So,
which is crazy because that's such an important role on the volleyball team. So that's interesting. I mean, I understand the hitters and the
and like maybe really ridiculously tall hitter is more rare than someone who's a pretty good libero. Like you would probably take that. I understand that give and take, but
yeah, interesting.
That's how it is.
How do you feel like this is going to impact the girls that are just now getting into volleyball, seeing that they can take it to the next level here in their own country?
Yes, I think it will just really like skyrocket the intention and then like direction. So I grew up, I never even thought I would be on Team USA. Like college was kind of the end for me.
Yeah.
And that's really why I decided to be done after BYU. Because I didn't really see a clear path out of that. And I didn't think I was good enough for Team USA. And then I was, and it was like, I didn't plan on this. Like I didn't really plan on being at this level. But when you can see it, like that's what you plan for. And that's what your goals are. And so I even just have seen the number of people who are deciding to keep playing go up because their friends are playing, the people that they know are staying in you have a goal of even being able to make one of the leagues in the United States, and to be able to stay in your home country is so valuable. And it's like you can keep doing it for longer than maybe going to a foreign country. That's a hard experience. Like, it's hard for even the top dogs, like when they come home, they're like, oh, I'm home,
Yes.
So I think it'll be awesome.
Incredible. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, Mary will tell us how she first got into volleyball and where her journey with the sport has taken her over the years. This is Her Why. This is Lauren McLean. Last season on Deep Blue, we heard inspiring stories from many amazing BYU athletes, coaches, and personnel, including BYU quarterback Gary Bohannon, who's from a small Arkansas town, and how he went from Baylor to BYU and what it's like playing for his son. BYU quarterback Jake Retzloff talks about how one class prevented him from beginning his playing career as a UTEP minor and what it was like playing his last 4 games under tough conditions. Join us for this season, where you'll find more great Cougar stories, including football players Tyler Batty, Darius Lassiter, Chase Roberts, and Hinkley Ropati. And BYU basketball head coach Kevin Young talks about how getting fired was a pivotal moment in his life and his journey to BYU. Catch Deep Blue on the BYU radio app or wherever you get your podcasts. Welcome back to Her Why. I'm Lauren McLean with former BYU libero and current player for Salt Lake's League One Volleyball team, Mary Lake. How did little Mary learn the game of volleyball in Palm Springs, California?
It was really a family affair. My sisters played volleyball, and I grew up going to all their games. I have a sister, Melissa, who's like 10 years older than me, who played at BYU. She was a lib. She met her husband. He was on the men's team. And so I watched her at BYU. I have an older sister, Sarah, who played, and really like a lot of the people in my ward and our close family friends played volleyball. So from a very young age, I was begging my siblings to pepper with me. And I was bumping a ball against the wall at like age 6 just for hours. Wow. My mom and my dad just painted over it. He sent me a picture and it's like the end of an era, and it's just all these black ball marks. I can't believe they let me do that. Like now as a homeowner, I'm like, no way. But I kind of started then, and then I played a lot by myself, and then I started club at 12 years old. I had an amazing coach, Gary Wilhoit in Palm Springs, California. He was actually coached by Heather Olstead's dad in Santa Barbara, and really taught me the basics and the foundation so well. And I'm so grateful for that, because now that I coach and I see a lot of players, like, it was pretty rare what he instilled in us and the level of excellence he expected. And then I played club, had amazing coaches with club. Kim Chernice, she's a coach at Cal State San Bernardino. She's amazing. And yeah, I think I really feel like my volleyball journey has been half like, of course I have to work so hard, and it's hard, but I also feel like Heavenly Father just has put people in my life and put situations in my life that have felt like he's kept me going, if that makes sense.
It does. I love that so much. And you are 5'7". Your sister Melissa is like 5'5". But your love for volleyball, was libero always the position because of your height, or did you guys want to do other positions?
Oh no. I was a setter hitter in high school. I set, and until I was a freshman, even in club, I didn't play libero. I set and I hit, and I led my league in blocks. I was a little baller up there on the net. Yeah, I had a big vertical. That's like my one claim to fame.
I love that.
I have other things I probably should talk about, but I'm like, did you know I led my high school league in blocks?
That actually is really incredible.
And I think it was good because it gave me, I really was an all around player.
Yeah.
And even those skills, like when I was at BYU, this is technical, but I did a lot of platform setting. And then when I was about a sophomore, I think I told them I can set, I want to start using my hands. And I started using my hands more, and I could jump. I think even just the movements of being able to push off my legs and just kind of being an all-around player helped me. Right. So, and I'm glad for that. And I think I liked it at that level. Setting was a little more fun. I touched the ball a little bit more. I was in control. I was it was fun.
So when you're coaching and when you're training girls, do you tell them that, like, hey, when you learn all around all the different position groups, it'll make you better?
Oh, totally.
At whatever you do.
Well, the liberos usually are the best hitters on the team. They just don't have the height, but they have the best like mechanics. Oh, and I tell them like whenever someone is struggling with a specific skill, I'm like, you need to go throw a baseball. You need to go like go play soccer. Go work on your footwork. Like throwing a football, those mechanics transfer so well to hitting, to serving. Like if you want your child to be a good athlete in their specialized skill, they need to be playing. They need to be not specialized. They need to be playing all different, or at least getting good at those mechanics. Like go do stuff that's not volleyball with them. I teach a lot of private lessons, and I'm like, okay, this one private lesson will help them like barely this much. I'm putting my fingers very close together. But if they just like go and get athletic experiences and go do this stuff on their own. Like I learned volleyball by myself in my garage with a ball when I was bored, when I was really little. What's
so great about playing libero? Like, what do you love most about that specific position?
Oh, being a lib. It's so great. It's kind of, I always say it's kind of the worst because passing is like a really hard skill in volleyball. Everyone struggles with passing.
Right.
It's like one of two jobs that I have. So mentally it's like really intense because you're doing this skill that just feels like you don't have a lot of control of it. Some of my favorite moments in being a lib is when you just like get that sense of like you get a great dig, right? And getting a great dig is great, but feeling like you had complete control over that. So when I'm training, I try to make it like everything that I do not be by chance. If I get a good pass or a good dig and it feels like it's by chance, I don't even really count it. I'm like, that was an accident. But when I'm working on something mechanically that makes me feel like I'm in control and I do it and the movement feels easy and the dig feels easy or the pass feels easy, it's like, oh, that's the feeling I'm like chasing after always, is that feeling of control.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You come from a state where volleyball is popular. Lots of great volleyball teams, indoor and outdoor. Besides the fact that your sister played at BYU, what made you want to come play for the Cougars?
Yeah, so I have always been a BYU fan, right? I grew up LDS, and I loved being here. I loved being on campus. But when I was getting recruited, my dad was the one who was like, you should really look at your options. I got recruited really young from BYU before the rules changed. So I committed as like a sophomore. Jeez. And I'm really grateful for that. Like even if I committed later, it still would have been at BYU. Right. But he was like, you should really look at other schools. So I did. I looked at other schools, and I remember I was on a visit to another school, and I was talking to the girls, and it just I knew that some of the hard things maybe that I would face at other schools, I wouldn't have to deal with at BYU.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at my dad, and we hadn't really talked about anything the whole day. And I looked at him and I was like, I think it's BYU, as I'm at this other school. Like, and it was beautiful, and it was in California, and it was wonderful. And like, they have a great program. And he was like, I think so too. And it really is like, I really appreciate my parents. They don't pressure me into anything. They don't push. They're like, they never pushed me. But I appreciate that they gave me that choice of like, you don't have to just do BYU. Like, let's go see what's out there. And after I committed, some bigger schools were looking at me like my junior and senior year. And it was kind of cool. Like, oh, I'm already committed, but they're looking at me. But I know it was always BYU.
I love that so much. That's
just
awesome.
Cliche.
And then, no, it's great. And you ended up being, you were just a wonderful fit for this team in so many ways. And I've said it before, but you really were just this fan favorite. Was it ever weird for you when you'd go on campus and people knew who you were? Because, some of these football players, right? They're like, oh, there's the quarterback. But you kind of were one of those people, one of those athletes.
I know. I tried to remind my husband I was really popular.
I was desirable.
I was really cool. No, it was... Okay, this sounds so bad. I loved feeling like people people didn't really know me, right? But I loved feeling like people thought I was cool because I was really good at my sport.
Yeah.
But then I could like be nice to them. Like they would
Right.
maybe come up to me with their kid, or they would be like, "Oh, you're on the volleyball team." And I would like just talk to them because I love that.
Yeah.
And that was such a cool part for me. So it was fun for me to be recognized, but not because I was being recognized, but because I could connect with
Right.
strangers in this like unique way and make them feel like, oh, like athletes are just freaking people. We are
Right.
so normal.
Use your platform for good.
Yeah.
I have a picture of my oldest son. He was just a little baby,
Oh.
and you were like kissing him on the cheek. I think it was like the what's it called, Cougar Fan Fest or something.
No
I don't
boundaries.
know.
Just kissing babies.
No, it was the cutest thing.
That's
It's like
so
one of
nice.
my favorite pictures.
Oh,
I'm like,
that's
this
awesome.
is why people love her so
you're
much.
nice.
All right, so 2016-17, the Cougars made it to Sweet 16. 2018 was really special. You lost only 2 matches the entire season, made it to the Final Four. Take us back to beating Texas in 3 straight sets on your home floor in the Smith Fieldhouse to make it to the Final Four.
Man, I remember that game so vividly. And the interesting thing is it was so packed, right? I remember being so tuned in that like in between points, like I couldn't hear anything until the crowd would like roar, and then it was like, oh my gosh, I forgot that there's all these people there. But because I think it was like the crowdest or loudest game that I've ever played at. It was so much fun, and we played so well. It was so incredible. It was kind of like, oh my gosh, we actually did it. Because we had faced some adversity. McKenna Miller, my bestie, she
Love her.
tore her ACL that year, and like Maddie Robinson came in and did awesome. But like McKenna she was like the other side to Ronnie. Like she was this powerhouse to reckon with. And we did it, and Maddie did so great. And I remember just being like, oh, we did it. Like we're not a letdown. We lived up to our expectation. Like we made it to the Final Four. So
I
awesome.
love that. And you played Stanford in the Final Four, lost in 3 straight. But what do you remember most about that season when you look back?
So that season, I had just started the junior core which means the accounting program's first year. So junior core is like your hard year. And I remember just feeling like, man, I am so busy. I am like really requiring excellence for myself in volleyball in school. And it was the happiest semester. And even though we like, and with seasons aren't just fun, like fall season, there's a lot of pressure. You're just like always looking forward to the next game. You win a game and then it's like, got to focus on the next. Like it's a lot, but I just was so happy. And I remember feeling so fulfilled. And my schedule literally was like 7:30, walk to school, do homework, volleyball, eat, go back to school with my accounting friends. Like we would have serve and pass, and we would have practice, and then I would go home and do homework. Like that's really how busy I was for that whole semester and the winter semester. But it was just more so even than volleyball. Personally, it was just my best time at BYU. It was awesome.
Do you thrive off of structure? I mean, like, do you?
I don't know.
Because you meant you like being in control.
Yeah, I think what I loved was, so in the accounting program, you have a group of 5 people who you spend all your time with. You do all your homework, all your projects. And so for the first time, I had friends outside of volleyball.
Yeah.
Ironically, one of my best friends in there, he's like this big volleyball fan. And he didn't really like let me know for a while, but they were just like, they helped me. They were my friends. They were my friends personally and with school. And so I think more so than the structure, I had a group of people who like saw me more than an athlete, more than just like, oh, you know what I mean?
Right, totally.
They just became like my friends and my support system.
Mm-hmm. That's so cool.
Yeah, it was awesome.
And then before your senior year, you got to play for Team USA. When you got to do that, were you like, I made it? Like, I made it. Was that kind of your top goal?
So Karch invited me out there. I really never expected to make that top team. There's a lot of girls who go out there. I knew that Karch liked me when he did commentary on one of the maybe Final Four or maybe the Texas game, and everyone was like, he was just talking about how wonderful you are, and I was like, whoa, that's really awesome. And he's so incredible. He's such an amazing coach.
Yeah.
But I didn't really think I would be at that level. And let me be clear, I was a little fish in a big pond. Like the level, I'm a really good volleyball player, and I had especially back then, like so much potential. but I still needed to work on a lot of stuff
Yeah.
if I was going to like be a real contributor at that level. It was honestly just like, it was just crazy. Like these people who I had looked up to for a long time or heard of, and just, they have a lot of prowess. Like I knew who they were. I was playing alongside them and I was like holding my own. It was kind of crazy.
Wow.
And it was interesting because so I had done that intense fall, played really late into the season because we went to the Final Four. Winters in college sports, like off season, isn't what people really think. It's like, oh, it's off season. It's harder on your body because you're building muscle. You're working out more. You're playing more volleyball than you do ever. So I did winter, and then summer is kind of your break. But instead of breaking, I went and did Team USA stuff for a really long time, and for like 3 or 4 months. And then I went right back into my senior season. So it was really hard physically. Like I didn't really get a break. I was obviously so grateful, but I was kind of like, by the end of it, my body was just wrecked.
How do you feel like that affected your senior season, having no off season?
Yeah, I don't think I was doing treatment more than ever. Like, and I could tell my body was stressed out, but it didn't really affect like my play or my, I don't know, maybe it would have been good to like take a rest, but I had to do that amazing thing. And I'm so grateful I did. We won a international tournament called VNL. And before NIL stuff, like I couldn't accept any of the money. All the girls got money and I had to like give it back. Now I'm like, ugh.
Come on.
I'm like, shoot, but that's okay. It was just so incredible. So yeah, I probably didn't answer your question.
You need to go ask them for that money back.
I know.
Now.
I'm like, honey, do we?
Hey, remember?
Hey, manager Jeff, can you go write an email to the NCAA telling them I won Team USA money and should have rights to it?
Hey, you might have a
I
case.
know.
I'm not kidding. So you graduate, and then I always think this has to be kind of weird for former athletes that play, and especially the ones that are like the greats that come back. What was it like going back to BYU volleyball matches after you graduated and you weren't playing anymore?
Oh, man. So I thought that it wouldn't be a problem because I really gave it my all those 4 years. I tell people it was like a really intense calling. Like you give it your all. And then when you're done, you leave like you're done, like you're ready to be done. And I was ready to be done. So I thought like, oh, I would be at peace because I gave my all to that program. Like, but when I went back, it was hard. And I just went and watched a game this last Thursday with my friend Kiani Moyai, who was a setter when I was there. And I was like, man, it's not hard anymore. It's just fun. It's just like fun being here, which is a fun point. It's a good point to be at. But yeah, it's like you miss being with that team. You miss kind of the like emotional high of a game. And there's lows, obviously, but that high is kind of addicting. So
that's what makes it hard is you yearn to be back on the court.
You have that craving. And even the friendships, I talk about that with a lot of people. Like that's what we miss. We miss seeing each other every day for 3 hours a day. You've built in friends that you don't realize, but and working towards excellence. Like every day we are meeting with a strength coach. And especially Heather Olstead is so good at creating an all-around person. Like the stuff that we talk about is just really great life. Like I miss the life lessons that they're always teaching us that apply to volleyball, but really apply to everything. So you just miss that.
Is that one of the things you feel like you have taken from Heather Olstead? One of the things that she's taught you in the 4 years that you played for her?
Yeah, and when you're in it, it's hard because you're this young, you're like basically a teenager. Yeah. And you're like, man, everything in my life has to be like kind of perfect. Like we're really expected to be really perfect. And, but even talking to all my teammates, we're like, we wouldn't change it for the world. We learned so much. We became such better people. Like I miss that. And I'm grateful for like how much she pushed us. And we all are like talking to a lot of my teammates. You should just be grateful. Like, yeah. And it's sometimes college athletics is hard. Like I've said that before, but when you leave something, like look at the good and be grateful for the good and see that because there is so much good that you take for granted.
You grew up a BYU fan. You were able to play there and do incredible things. What does it mean to you to be able to leave behind your own legacy at BYU?
Oh, I don't know. I don't really think of myself as having a legacy, which is funny, but it is fun being able to, like, now that I have a kid and my husband, who actually didn't watch very much of me playing. He wasn't which is why I liked him. He wasn't a volleyball person until my senior season when we were dating. But it is fun to, like, remember that I did this really hard thing and I did this and I gave my all to this program. I don't know if I'll be, it's funny. I'm like nothing anymore, which is, it's how it is. It's the natural progress. Like, these athletes that are doing such awesome things right now, like, should be in that light, and people should be giving them the love because they're the ones doing the hard thing right now. But I'm just grateful that I can come to alumni events. Me and my friends are talking, my old teammates were talking about the next alumni event. We want to, like, make it a big thing and go rent a hotel, and just those relationships are really the legacy. Not really much more than that. Like, my numbers are on maybe a record sheet somewhere, but the relationships that I built and the people that I learned to love and how I learned to love them is really what is the legacy, you know.
I'm talking to professional volleyball player and former BYU star libero Mary Lake. Mary, thank you so much for coming on with me. We're excited to continue to watch you and that we only have to go down the road.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was awesome. It's nice seeing you again.
You too. Thanks again to Annie Robinson and Sydney Simpson for producing this episode with senior producer Cleon Wall. Her Why is a production of BYU Radio.